everyone, it's Meg, and today I am going to be sharing with you guys my disappointing reads for 2019. Overall, 2019 was an amazing reading year for me, but I did have a few books that were disappointments for me, which is such a shame, but then again, that happens as a reader. Sometimes you are just so hyped or looking forward to a book and then you do not love it as much as you think you do, which is a shame. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about the 6 books that disappointed me this year. Some of these books I will be disowning, some of the books I didn't hate, the majority of these books I did not hate. So I will definitely be keeping them, but there are 1 or 2 that I am going to be getting rid of. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book that I have on this list is I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman. I was so looking forward to this book. From the moment it came out and I heard the synopsis, I knew I had to read it because it is about these 3 characters who have lost their way, hence the title, and their stories kind of combine and it happens from there, and I was expecting to really be able to relate to this book, especially for the time in my life when I read it, and technically the time in my life that I am now, about feeling lost and being able to find your way and find hope. But I just didn't click with this story anywhere near as much as I thought I would. I wasn't a massive fan of the characters. The storyline was quite different to what I thought it would be. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest with you, but it was I guess it was different to what I was expecting. And I wasn't a fan of the ending. That's probably the thing that annoyed me the most. It was just way too open-ended. That's just a personal opinion. I feel like the book could either have definitely been longer or there could have been a second book, but there isn't either. So yeah, I'm just really gutted because what let me down was probably the factor of how much I did not relate to this book. And I had such high expectations for it, I guess, which was a real shame. So I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars, but I feel like I should actually give it a 2 out of 5 stars because now I come to think about it, I just really did not enjoy it. I feel like I was full on pushing my way through it at some points, even though there were 2 quotes that I put on here that I enjoyed, but it was just a real letdown for me, which is such a shame, as I really did want to like this book and be able to relate to it, but I didn't. So I am tempted to unhaul this. I'm not too sure yet, but I might unhaul it or might not, because I'd like to unhaul some books by the end of the year. So yeah, really gutted that I didn't end up enjoying it, but at least I read it and I now have an opinion on it. But yeah, I'm really gutted that I didn't end up loving this book as much as I thought I would. The next book that I have on this list is 10 Things I Can See From Here by Carrie Mack. This is another book that I was so unbelievably excited to read. It came out in 2017, I believe, and ever since then I have been dying to read it because this book is basically about a girl named Marv or Maeve, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that, and one of the main plot lines is that she has anxiety, severe anxiety, and that's mainly why I wanted to read this book. And it also has a girl and girl romance, which I was also really interested in reading. The mental health was the main reason why I wanted to read it, because I also suffer with anxiety, so it's also always nice to find and read books that I can relate to. But again, this was it was a disappointment again, which I'm really, really gutted about. There were bits on this book that I really enjoyed, but I found this book very triggering, particularly at the beginning. I was so triggered by it and I was really tempted to put it down actually before I'd even hit page 100. I was so tempted to put it down, but I kind of took a break from it and came back and pushed through. And it got a bit better. I kind of preferred the second half of this book to the first half. I feel like the anxiety wasn't as much of a main plot point throughout the second half of the book. The second half was more like the romance part. And the other issue that I had with this, I wasn't a fan of many of the characters. I wasn't a fan of Marv's dad at all. And there is a bit in here where she talks about why her parents won't let her take medication for her anxiety, and the reason behind that just really, really irritates me. I think that's rather ignorant. But the bit that I did like the most was probably the relationship between Marv and this girl named Salix. I really enjoyed their relationship, especially when Marv's anxiety came into play with it. As sometimes in books, when a person comes into a relationship, they are instantly cured. Their mental health is better, they are no longer ill. But in this book, it wasn't the case. Salix didn't magically fix Marv. She helped her and supported her through it. She wants to understand what is going on inside Marv's head. And I really love that, how it is totally the opposite to what it is like in some other young adult books that are discussing mental health and relationships. So that was probably one of the main reasons why I pushed through, because I did enjoy the romance so much. And I did like the mental health representation in all. It's just the fact that it did quite trigger me. So if you just be aware of that before you go into this book. And it also does deal with alcoholism a bit, so just be aware of that before going into it as well. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars overall. I still did enjoy it once I had kind of got more into the book. Like I said, definitely prefer the second half more than the first half. But yeah, just be aware that if you might be affected or triggered by this book, then maybe do not pick it up. But again, go and look at some reviews on Goodreads as well. That's what I did after I read this book, and quite a lot of people seem to have the similar opinions that I did. But I still did enjoy it. I'm still glad that I read it, even though it didn't quite match up to the expectations that I originally had. The next book that I have is actually my very first DNF'd book, and that is Summer Days and Summer Nights, which is edited by Stephanie Perkins. I picked this up in a charity shop earlier this year, and I was so excited because I love the idea of having a cute summer romance stories to read in the summer, and I listened to this on audiobook, and I was like over halfway through, and I just decided to DNF it because I was not connected to any of the stories. I don't know whether it's because I was trying to listen to it on a faster speed to get used to it, but I just had no idea what was going on with the stories. I didn't connect to them. I found it boring, and the stories weren't quite as cute and summery romancy as I thought they might be, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just wasn't quite what I expected. So I just decided just over halfway through that there were other books that I'd rather be listening to and reading, so I decided to DNF it, and I'm quite glad that I did, to be honest with you. I don't think I would have been that bothered to finish it, and this is a book that I'm going to definitely be unhauling. So yeah, I'm really gutted, as there is also a Christmas version of this sort of book as well, but I don't think I'm going to be reading that if I wasn't a fan of this one. So that's a shame, but then again, a new experience for being able to unhaul my very first book, even though it is a shame that I didn't like it, as I would really like to get into short stories a little bit more. The next book that I listened to an audiobook, and that is Kings, Queens and Inbetweens by Tanya Bottigieg, I believe is how you say her last name. This was a book that I was, again, so incredibly excited when I found out that it was being released, as it is about drag, specifically drag kings, and you guys should know by now how much I love drag, so it would be amazing to be able to read a book, a fictional book, which the main topic of it is drag. And overall I did enjoy it, but I found the plot quite messy. I feel like some things happened for no reason, or they didn't have an explanation, and our main protagonist, who was called Nima, I nearly forgot her name. Nima, I wasn't a massive fan of either. She was kind of a bit of a wet blanket. She was just like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, what am I doing? I don't deserve this. I'm like, get yourself together, girl, please. Have a little bit of self-belief. Like, I feel like she did come into her own a little bit more towards the end of the book, but for the majority of it, it's just characters like that just take the mick, you know? Like I said, the plot was a bit messy. Like, Nima made some pretty stupid decisions throughout some parts of the book, but I can't necessarily speak for the drag representation, but I loved how it also concentrated on drag kings, as I don't know a lot about drag kings, and it's also nice to be able to have a book that highlights that and not necessarily just drag queens, which I feel like quite a lot of people are slightly more familiar with. And my favourite character was Dita, who was an absolute gem. She was so charming. I would love to have her as my best friend, and I loved her outlook on life and how much she wanted to help and encourage Nima. I thought that was really wonderful. And yeah, that was something that I really liked about that book as well. I also wasn't very keen on the ending either because it was quite an open ending, but then again, that's just personal opinion. Again, I'm not a person who is a massive fan on open endings when it comes to books. But I still did really enjoy it, and I think it is an amazing book for representation, and to be able to read a book about drag as well. I really love that so much for the fact of how much drag means to me. So I would still recommend this book, and I would like to get the physical copy of it, and I may read it again in the future, maybe read it physically and see if I feel any different about it. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I did still enjoy it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, I believe. And yeah, it was a wonderful book. I'm still glad that I got to read it, as it is, I feel like, a very important book. But yeah, overall I did still really enjoy it, even though there were aspects of it that I wasn't a massive fan of. The second to last book that I have on this list is I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. I discovered Alice Oseman at the beginning of the year, and I read Radio Silence, which I absolutely adored, and then I have read both volumes of Heartstopper that are currently out. And this is Alice's third book that she has. I haven't read Solitaire yet, and I was obviously really looking forward to reading it, as I liked Radio Silence so much. And I did feel like I enjoyed this book, but after I finished it, the more I thought about it, the more I wasn't a massive fan of it. The Bookmarked Book Club did have this for one of their books, and I didn't watch all of the live show that they did, but I watched some of it. And when they were talking about it, I kind of realised that there were some problems with it that I wasn't a massive fan of. This book is kind of based around fandom culture, which is something that I've never personally been a part of. It's just not, I've never been a part of it, so it's something that I can't relate to in an instance. But even though I did enjoy the characters in here, there were some things that kind of seemed a bit surreal and a bit ridiculous in some way, because you feel like, in what chance would that happen? You know, because this is a dual perspective book, and between these two characters their paths kind of cross, because one is a singer and then one is the fangirl of the band that this guy is in. And when the things kind of happen between them and their paths cross, it is a little bit ridiculous when I think about it. Like, I don't think there's very slim chance that would happen in real life. Then again, this is fiction, even though it is set in the real world. The more I kind of thought about this book, the more I wasn't a fan of it, and the more I didn't like it as much. But I still got a lot of enjoyment from it. I still got through it. I didn't exactly struggle getting through it at all. And yeah, I still enjoyed it, but I do definitely prefer Radio Silence over this, 100%. So I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars again, so I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it as much as the other books that I've read from Alice. But I still intend on picking up Solitaire at some point, and I've also already pre-ordered her next book, Loveless, which comes out next year. And the last book that I have on this list, which is probably my biggest disappointment in this whole video, which I'm really gutted about, is Tin Man by Sarah Winman. I haven't talked about Sarah's books in a while on my channel, but you guys should know by now how much I love her books. I love her writing, I love her stories, her characters. It is just so beautiful and lyrical and whimsical. And this is her third book. She hasn't brought out any other books. This is the only of hers that I haven't read. And my mum read this before me, and she said it was quite different to her other books. But I picked it up and I really struggled to get through this, not gonna lie. This is a very short book. It is just over 200 pages. So I could fly through this in a week, less than a week. And it took me like 2 weeks to read it. I really struggled, especially the first half of the book, as this is kind of like a before and after kind of aspect of the book. Even though this book does cover similar topics that have been discussed in Sarah's other books, such as grief and relationships and family and love, it just didn't click with me, and I'm not gonna lie, I really did struggle getting through it. I couldn't connect with the story like I could with her other books. I really struggled through the first half of this book. Second half, which is from the second perspective, like the after, I did enjoy a lot more. And there was one passage in here, I didn't tab it, but I absolutely love. There was like one little bit in here that I absolutely adored. But overall, I just wasn't a massive fan, which I'm really gutted about. And yeah, I was just really let down by it, to be honest, which I'm so sad because I love Sarah and her writing and her other books so much. But yeah, really, really gutted. I think I did give this a 3 out of 5 stars, but then again, I think I might actually give it a lower, like maybe a 2.5 out of 5 stars, since I really did not enjoy it as much as the other books of hers that I've read. But nonetheless, I'm still glad that I managed to read all of her books, and hopefully if she comes out with another book in the future, then I will enjoy it a lot more than this book, as I do feel like maybe the writing, and it is quite a different book compared to her other novels, or in my opinion, I feel like it is at any rate. So yeah, probably my biggest disappointment out of all of this video, I must admit. But I still read her book, and at least I can say that I have read all of her books. And yeah, hopefully I will like her other books if she ever writes any more in the future. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, it is nice to be able to talk about some books that maybe I didn't like as much throughout 2019. Some of them I still quite enjoyed, but maybe I just put the hype up for myself, so I didn't end up enjoying them as much as I thought I would. Some of them I DNF'd, like my very first DNF book. Some were just pure letdowns, but overall I had an amazing reading year, and I only have this many books so far from when I'm filming this that haven't quite met my expectations, or I haven't enjoyed as much as I thought I would. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm still glad that I managed to read some of these books, or the majority of them, that I actually didn't mind reading. Let me know in the comments if you guys have read any of these books and your thoughts on them, or if you have had any disappointing reads this year, and what are they and your opinions on them, because I would love to know as always. If you like this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more bookish videos from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and little bell icon so you'll be noted every time I post a new video. As always, I will leave the links to my social media along with the links to my Goodreads in the description down below for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!